Hi everybody, my name's Ben Shelton, and today I'm going to be giving you a brief lesson on using tritone substitutions with 11th and sus4 kind of chords. So brief recap of how a tritone sub works. If I'm, say, got a B flat 7th chord here, and I flip the root up or down a tritone, a flat 5th, same either way, end up with an E7th, because what happens is the 3rd and the 7th switch places. In this case I have the root, the 3rd, or the root, the 7th, and the 3rd, and in this case I have the root, the 3rd, and the 7th. And we use this for movement and chord substitution. So for example, if we have a B flat 13th and we flip the root up a tritone to an E, we end up with an E7 with a sharp 9 and a sharp 11 or a flat 5th, whatever you want to call it. So right. So yeah, you can use that as transition, in this case, to get from the 1 chord to the 4 chord in the blues. So a few months ago I was at a jam session and I heard a young piano player doing something I found fascinating, and I couldn't hear what it was right away, so I had to ask him afterwards. And what he showed me was this, and we were playing rhythm changes, and he did this on the bridge. And you know the rest. So anyway, what's going on here? So a traditional rhythm changes bridge goes something like this, right? We go to D7, G7, C7, F7, and we're back home to B flat. So what he did in this case was treat each one of those chords as a 11th chord or a sus4 chord. So in this case we'd have a D11 kind of chord, or if you want to call it a C triad with the D in the bass, you can call it that too. And then you'd play something like this. And then it continues like it normally would. So that gets us halfway there. The interesting thing happens when we stick in the tritone subs for each one of those 11th or sus4 chords. So what ends up happening there is we have a D 11th, then a tritone away from that is an A flat 11th, which in guitarese you can think of it as this voicing that you know for a G flat 13th with an A flat in the bass, and that way you can get all the notes if you're playing solo. So you could think of it, right? Move the whole voicing by the tritone, but that sounds off and doesn't lead the voices very well. So then we come down and we're to the G, and we do our tritone from there to a D flat 11th, C 11th, to a G flat 11th, F 11th, to a B 11th, and then come a half step. So to recap, we're going to start on the D, tritone, half step, tritone, half step, tritone, half step, tritone, go to regular regular 7th, and then back half step. So the interesting implication of this is before, right, when we were playing 7ths, right, if we just did it this way, which you've probably seen before, and just do it with dominant 7ths, the interesting thing is you can play a little fast and loose with the harmony, because things that sound diatonic in one key, for example, this sounds all in the key, and then you move the root and suddenly you have alterations, right? These notes become the flat 9 and the sharp 5. You don't think like that when you have the 11th or the sus4 sound, because it is so closely linked with the mode that corresponds with it. So in this case, for that you hear, which is the D Mixolydian mode, which is a D major scale with a flat 7th. And then when we change to this A flat sus 4, this A flat 11th sound, the set of notes that go with that chord flips entirely. You can't just play off of common tones or expect there to be alterations. And you move from the set of tones that exist in a D Mixolydian to the set of tones that exist in an A flat or Mixolydian. So that's something interesting to learn to play off of. So what I would recommend, just to get an idea for the sound in your head, is to make a little jam track on rhythm changes, pretty slow, and just play with it. So something like that, and you just, after each A section, you go into a B section where you play the altered changes and get used to how to make the changes from here to here. And that may be a move your ear isn't used to, because you have to stick so closely to the set of 7 tones that exists in each one of those respective modes, and you learn how to use the common tones and the chromaticism in order to make a line that flows evenly from one to the next. So, in addition to rhythm changes, you can use this other places. So let's look at Recordame. I've heard the same young piano player do the same thing on that tune. So what's going on there is, if I come 2-5, so I'm in B flat major 7, B flat minor 7, and I just normally go like this, right, from a B flat minor 7 to an E flat 7 with a flat 9th to A flat major 7. But instead what I'm doing is I go from the B flat 7, and I'm going to take the tritone sub of this E flat, which is an A, but instead of playing it like this, I'm going to play the sus chord that goes with it, because that's the dominant sort of sound, and this is the very defined so. And then A flat minor 7 goes to G7 sus4, G11, and that just slides up to get us to F major 7, or F sharp, G flat major 7, and then or like this. Then we're back around again. And again, this is something you can practice with your lines. So you coming in. So anyway, I hope you've gotten some use out of this, and what I can recommend that you do is just practice it, and you'll start to hear which tones fit. And as always, be extra careful to hug the changes really closely, and a lot of stuff can fit because of the integrity of the line, but in this case you want to make sure that it fits exactly with the harmony, just because the pull between this kind of 7 sus4 sound and the corresponding mode is so strong that if you break it, it sounds not quite right, but if you run lines that match it, you can get some really nice, interesting stuff out of it. Anyway, have a great day, and hope you've gotten something useful and enjoyable out of the lesson.